You're listening to the Scottish Football Forums podcast, the home of Scottish football banter.
Hello and welcome to an SFF Podcast International Special as we preview Scotland's upcoming friendly with Northern Ireland on Tuesday. I'm John and joining me is a Scotsman who's passionate about Northern Irish football. It's Campbell's Football's host, Dr Grant Campbell. Grant, thanks for coming on. How are you?
I'm very well, John. It's nice to be invited on, and this is really a derby game for me. And obviously, I've enjoyed following Northern Irish football over the last 6-7 years, and now, obviously, with Scotland being my home nation, it's going to be a really interesting game for me on Tuesday night.
Right, can I just say if there's any half and half scarves from you, you're getting chucked off this call right now. So,
I can assure people watching this, I don't have that yet. I said yet very carefully there.
Yeah, but Grant, listen, you do have a great knowledge of Irish football, but we do need someone that knows that a little bit more. So join us as journalist Mark McIntosh. Mark, welcome along to Scottish Football Forums podcast. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks very much for having me.
Yeah,
I'm kind of the opposite of Grant. You know, I'm half Scottish, and when it goes to big tournaments and All Ireland aren't there, I'm wearing a Scotland shirt. So there we go.
It's been great to see you, Mark. How you been keeping? I know we met a couple of weeks ago in Belfast. It's passed by very, very quickly.
I'm not as relaxed as I was then, just with the All Ireland games, you know. Big game in Romania, certainly for us then. So it's been a busy few days, and it'll be another busy few days. So I can't wait till the end of next week to get some time off.
Well, you'll be hoping that the Northern Ireland team is less dodgy than your internet connection. I'm hoping your defence is as dodgy as that. Hopefully that'll fix itself. Interestingly, Northern Ireland obviously got a decent result the other night, which we'll come on to later. But what is the general mood around the Northern Ireland men's football team from a media perspective just now, especially after what was not a great Nations League campaign and stuff?
Yeah, to be honest, it was an awful campaign for Northern Ireland. There's no getting away from that. I think the big thing for Michael O'Neill is when he came in, he had so many experienced players that he couldn't wait to work with again. Stephen Davis being top of the pile, and within 3 weeks of Michael being reappointed, Stephen Davis, well, he never kicked another ball again. And so many experienced players were out of that squad. Even the likes of Conor Bradley, who is so highly rated, young player, but very important player in that last campaign. And he missed most of the games with a stress fracture of his back. So whilst the results were awful, and I think actually with the squad that we did have, as limited as it was, I think we should have done better. I think Michael O'Neill would agree with that. The players would agree with that. But I think there's a lot of understanding, certainly within the Northern Ireland fan base and the Northern Ireland media. They know that whilst the draw itself, when it came out, we thought it was brilliant and it gave us a great chance. The reality was, with the squad that Michael had to play with, we were never going to finish second. So I think there's a realisation that from there.
Were you surprised, Mark, that Michael O'Neill got a 6-year deal when he came back to the Northern Ireland side? He did so well first time round. When he went back second time round, it did catch me by surprise in particular. What did it mean for you?
I wasn't surprised in the slightest. I know how Michael works, and had Michael asked for a 10-year contract, he probably would have got it. So I wasn't surprised at all. And I think, you know, Michael had a couple of offers from clubs, but I knew that he probably felt there was unfinished business with Northern Ireland. He thought they could have done more, possibly in his first time in charge. You know, we got to the Euros in 2016, which was incredible. But we got to the 2 playoffs, the next 2 major tournaments. And I think, you know, he wasn't able to take charge of the second playoff because he had already gone to Stoke. And I think that sort of struck him, and he wants to do something else. And I think international football suits Michael O'Neill down to a T. And I think that was also a big pulling factor for him.
It's funny you mentioned club football there, that he was there was club jobs on offer after Stoke before he went back to Northern Ireland. There was some rumours linking him with the Aberdeen job, but given the fact he's got 5 years contract left, one, I don't think Aberdeen would pay the money, but do you think there's any linkage that would any temptation that would take Michael O'Neill from international football to Aberdeen?
Certainly not at this moment in time. I think he was at Aberdeen to watch a couple of players, and I think it was as simple as that. And people obviously put two and two together. But no, we spoke to him about it the day he announced the squad, and he blamed us on it, of course, usual. People putting stories in newspapers to sell newspapers. But no, I don't see any chance of Michael O'Neill going anywhere anytime soon.
Mark, you mentioned about Connor Bradley and the impact that he's made in such a short space of time. There's other youngsters that's breaking into Michael O'Neill's setup right now, the likes of Callum Marshall in particular. How important is it they move on from what was a really golden generation period, that Euro 2016 side that did so well? What's your take on the sort of stars of the future for Northern Ireland?
To be fair, we've been moving on from that squad probably since that squad, because there's been retirements sort of every year. I think we're putting so much pressure on some of these young lads. Connor Bradley is slightly different beast because he's playing nearly every week for Liverpool. It's not who are going for 3 trophies this season. But there are a lot of young players with a lot of promise. Our biggest problem, I think, is we've had to throw them all in together. Callum Marshall scored the goal that never was in Copenhagen, and that VAR check must have taken about 7 minutes, or felt like about 17. And it's a difficult one for him because he was scoring a bag load of goals for West Ham's reserve team. But playing reserve team football and playing international football are two very different beasts. I think a lot of the other players he's got in the squad are playing first team football, the likes of Trey Hume at Sunderland, Isaac Price at Standard Liège, boys like that. Like I said earlier, this is going to take time. There will be very difficult days ahead.
Yeah, there might well be difficult days, but you're on a little bit of a run, as it turns out, because you beat Denmark in the last European Championship qualifier. Yes, it was a dead runner, but you've got to start somewhere, and it's a good result. And then a draw with Romania, who are also going to the Euros as well. And what a moment for Jamie Reid of League One Stevenage. I mean, people can turn up their nose as to why they play in League One players, but at the end of the day, he's come in, he scored a goal. What a moment from him. It was it seemed a decent performance and result, although Conor Hazard, I think, could have done better with the equaliser. But overall, you would have taken a draw out in Bucharest had it been offered to you.
Oh, in a heartbeat. But look, as much as the draw was great, the performance is the thing that really impressed me. Michael O'Neill found a way to shoehorn in 3 right backs into his starting 11. That's not an easy thing to do. Very young back line. And again, as you said, you've mentioned Jamie Reid. Jamie Reid played for our under-21s a couple of times 11 years ago. And since then, he's had no international football. He was playing in the National League South for a while, on certain loan deals. He's had to go about it the difficult way. And what a performance in Bucharest. The way he held the ball up, he brought people into play. He was ruffling a few feathers. He was winding a few up. And as you say, he took his goal brilliantly after only 7 minutes. It was in many ways a perfect debut.
And moving ahead, Mark, I mean, obviously a good positive performance in Bucharest. On to the Scotland game. Scotland are obviously coming off the back of a little bit of a lesson that was handed out to them in Amsterdam by the Netherlands on Friday night. What do Northern Ireland need to do at Hampden to get a result on Tuesday and build momentum ahead of the Nations League, which has to be the bigger prize and the bigger target long-term for the national team?
Look, it is, and we're going to have another 2 friendlies, possibly one in Spain, bizarrely, in the summer. I don't think, it's not a case of we have to go to Hampden Park on Tuesday night and win the game. Michael O'Neill will be looking for a performance again, seeing what he can get out of the younger players. He's asking a lot of these younger players to do things that are totally alien to them at their clubs. And I think he just wants to see that sort of progression. But I can tell you, even after the Denmark game, speaking to the players after the match, it was like speaking to completely different people. Just getting that one win, because it proved to them that they can do it. There's some unbelievably talented players, like Shea Charles is another one from Southampton. In midfield, he can even play at the back. He's just a stunning player. So look, I don't think there'll be much pressure on Northern Ireland from within to go to Hampden Park and win. But I think having beaten Denmark and got a great result in Romania, why not? Because we all look at Scotland, and the job they did at the start of their qualification campaign to qualify was sensational, and it was great to see. But let's be honest, it hasn't been too great since then. How many games, without a win or, back-to-back wins even? It's been a while now for Scotland, hasn't it?
Yeah, six without a win. I mean, there are some mitigating circumstances, but it's probably, to be fair, Mark, the pressure is more on Scotland than it is Northern Ireland, because we are going to a major tournament and we're expected to, not just to go to that tournament, make up numbers. We are looking to get the group stage, so there's enormous pressure on Scotland to end that run and start building momentum ahead of the Euros. What can Northern Ireland do that will try and frustrate Scotland? Is it just going to be a case of couple of banks of four and ask Scotland to try and break us down, or do you think there's more to Northern Ireland's game than that?
There's a bit more. Like I said, in Romania, you could see an identity, and you could see the start of that with the Denmark game as well. Michael likes playing three at the back and then two wing backs, which was how he was able to fit in those three right backs I spoke about. I think what Michael O'Neill's been impressed with most with Northern Ireland recently is how good they are without the ball. And that maybe sounds a silly thing to some people, but that's what, when you're with a smaller nation, that's what you have to be, because most of the time you're not going to have the ball anywhere near you. And I think his only criticism from Romania was that we maybe could have used the ball a little bit better. But I would imagine Northern Ireland won't have the majority of possession on Tuesday night. But certainly with Conor Bradley, I think we can be a threat to any team on the break. Conor Bradley once for the goal and then another one straight afterwards, almost created a chance as well. And I think that's basically how Northern Ireland will play. Look to hit Scotland on the break.
Where do you think Northern Ireland could be vulnerable to Scotland? Because obviously there has to be a reaction from Steve Clarke's side after that result on Friday night in Amsterdam.
Look, again, like I said, with so many young players in the squad, especially sort of around the back line, you're always going to have issues. We've got our sort of first choice goalkeeper, Billy Peacock Farrell. You may have seen him in the second half in Romania, and he was wearing crazy sort of villain type mask after he got a brutal injury. Now he got a massive cut on the top of his head, a broken nose and concussion just a few weeks back, which is probably why he didn't start the game. So when you're chopping and changing your keeper, and then you've got different people in the back line all the time, I think that's always difficult. And traditionally, Northern Ireland struggle at times when it comes to the second game of a double header, and that would be a slight concern. But with so many younger players comes that enthusiasm, and there's no fear whatsoever. So I think if Scotland were targeting us, they know there's a lot of inexperience. Like Jamie Reid, the guy who scored on his debut, was the oldest player in the starting lineup at 29. The average age of the side on Friday night was 23 and a half. So there's a lot of inexperience. Most of the players in that squad have less than 10 caps. You look at someone like Stephen Davis, who's just retired. He had 140 for himself. And we're missing the likes of Johnny Evans, who would give you a bit of that sort of backup. So I think that's probably what Scotland will target. But like I said, I've seen lots of signs of improvement in terms of that in the last few games.
It's certainly going to be interesting. That experience will come over time, and it'll be interesting to see where Northern Ireland are, probably more so in a couple of years ahead of Euro 2028, where there's 5 nations, so that'll be interesting. This is the fourth time the two sides have met Hampden since Scotland last visited Northern Ireland in 1984. Plus, there was a Nations Cup meeting in Dublin 13 years ago. So 1983 was the last time, actually. So how much would you love to see this fixture come back to Belfast after such a long period of time? As I say, this is the fourth friendly at Hampden.
I would love to see Scotland play Northern Ireland every year, if I'm being honest. The old home nations people talk about. I love that. I would love to see that. It frustrates me that I haven't seen a Northern Ireland Scotland game at Windsor Park in my lifetime. I watched us beat England, which was an incredible night, but I would love to see us play Scotland at Windsor. I've been to a few of the games at Hampden. But I don't know, for Northern Ireland fans, it's just, yes, it's a bit of fun. You have an away trip, it's close, loads of people can go. The Tartan Army already bring an unbelievable atmosphere, so that'll be great. But there's nothing like Windsor Park. A very full. Like, Grant, you're unlucky. You've been to Windsor Park when it's been kind of busy. When it's full and
yes.
it's bouncing, oh, what a place.
I would just be there in a heartbeat if there was an alternating year-on-year Windsor Park and Hampden. I would be there in a heartbeat, Mark. So let's see if we can make it happen between us. As a little bit of a kind of hope anyway. In terms of the game itself and a prediction, give us your prediction on the game. How do you think it'll go, and what's your scoreline thoughts?
You see, to be honest, in recent times when Northern Ireland play, it's tossing a coin. I really don't know. And Michael O'Neill is the master of throwing something strange into his starting lineup. You know, I don't think anyone would have predicted the starting lineup for Romania, and it worked brilliantly. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if there was something there. Look, my heart says Northern Ireland are going to win because I never think we're going to lose. But when I think with my head, it's difficult. Let's see, will there be any cry-offs from the Scotland squad? You know, will Liverpool really want Andy Robertson involved in that game? You know, I don't know. Maybe there will be. Possibly some of our players will need rested. I don't know. But I have a good feeling that Northern Ireland will come away from Hampden without losing.
Well, I certainly hope you're wrong there, Mark. But you guys thought this was going to be the end of that podcast, but I've got a wee surprise for you both. I've got a very quick quiz, 3 questions each related to Northern Ireland, Scotland, and you'll be pleased to know, Grant, there are some multiple choices in there, and I'm going to start with you, Dr. Campbell. So there have been 26 meetings between the two. How many have been Scotland wins? A, 16, B, 17, or C, 18?
How many meetings did you say there were?
There's been 26 meetings between the two.
And it was 16, 18, and
17.
That's not good for us, no matter what.
I'll be kind to Mark and say 16. I'll be half the time to you about it.
Wrong. The answer is 17. Mark, as we touched on, Northern Ireland's last win in 1983 was a 2-0 win in Belfast. Who scored the second goal? Was it Billy Hamilton, Norman Whiteside, or Sammy McIlroy?
I'm too young to remember it, so someone I love having a beer with, Billy Hamilton.
No, the answer is Sammy McIlroy. Norman Whiteside got the opening goal, and I found that information out today.
Funnily enough, I would have said Sammy McIlroy, but that would have just been a guess.
Yeah,
this is going very well, Mark. We're not doing very well here, mate.
Right, Grant, which centre back scored the only goal when the two sides last met in 2016? So it's Gordon Strachan's era.
Yes.
Sorry, 2015, because the following year was the Euros, but it was in that campaign.
Centre back.
I was at that and can't remember.
Who would have still been in the back at that time? I have no clue, and I must have been a game that was pretty quiet because I certainly don't remember it. I'm going to go for a really random one because I just think it probably somebody like Christophe Berra, so I'll go with him.
That's who was in my mind.
Grant, your guess is absolutely spot on.
That was a complete guess. I did not have a clue.
And well done.
Sorry, Mark. I've caught you on the backhand with that one.
And you've beaten your last SFF total, which you got half a point last time. Remember?
I'm glad you brought that up.
Mark, for you, which defender was sent off when the two sides met in 2008? And I believe the boy made his debut. And also, yes, that's right. Formerly of Hibs. Grant, who did Conor McMenamin's first Northern Ireland goal come against?
Oh, no. Oh, dear. I should know this. It was...
I should put it.
You know this, do you, Mark? No?
I would really have to think about it.
I'll say Slovenia, but I think I'm wrong.
You are wrong. It is San Marino. And Mark, for the
San
chance
Marino.
to...
Of course it was. 3-0.
And Mark, for the chance to win, David Healy is Northern Ireland's top goal scorer, but who is second on the list?
Kyle Lafferty.
Yeah. And Mark wins by 2-1, and let's hope that is the only Northern Ireland victory over Scotland this week. I will trade that for Tuesday. But bragging
it's a good scalp, I would say.
But yeah, bragging rights to Mark. But listen, Mark, thanks for coming on. Grant, thank you for helping me with hosting duties, and thank you for everyone for watching this SFF podcast special on YouTube.
Can I ask you guys a question before we leave?
Mm-hmm.
Who has the worst new shirt?
You guys.
Now, ours looks like a watermelon in lederhosen. I think.
Yeah.
Ours isn't good.
Our home one is okay. The away one is awful in my eyes, but the two Northern Ireland ones, a combination. No, you win the worst kit.
The away kit's actually quite nice up close. Isn't it great, though, that some Scotland fans were giving off about the kits? Northern Ireland fans were definitely giving off. And in the midst of all of that, England said, "Here, hold my beer."
Brilliant.
That's always want to have a little laugh over the English over. I mean, they've got the better football team, but we've got slightly the better of the rubbish kits. But listen, thanks again, guys, and thank you everyone for watching.